Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's July 11th meeting of the Grosse Pointe Park City Council. If you can all rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Wood. Here. Councilmember Conrad Wolter. Here. Councilmember Ritchie.
Here.
Mayor Darrow.
Here.
Councilmember Donovan.
Here.
Councilmember Zorba.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blue.
Do I have a motion to excuse the Mayor Pro Tem Blue?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, reading and consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 13th, 2022. Are there any corrections to those minutes? See none, they will be approved and submitted. Item 4 on the happy occasion for why we're here. Public Safety Department ceremony promoting Sergeant Tom Dion to Lieutenant and Officer Tim Harris to Sergeant. Hutch, take us away, please.
Good evening, everybody. Excuse my voice, I have some allergy issues. Council, Mayor Theros, family, and friends, we appreciate the opportunity to acknowledge and present our latest round of promotions to you this evening. It's been a busy 7 months in Public Safety Department since Director Jensen retired. We've had a lieutenant retire, a detective retire, full-time dispatcher retire, and we have a fire specialist retire at the end of the year. So that has resulted in promotions, hires, transfers, and a lot of training. So for those of you who don't understand how the rank structure works here, when a lieutenant retires, sergeant bumps up to the position of lieutenant, a PSO bumps up to the position of sergeant, and we have to hire a PSO. So there have been 3 openings as a result of Lieutenant Tom Shimko retiring last month. I always like to reiterate the promotional process here in the farms because it's extremely challenging and involves 3 separate steps: a written exam that's comprised of 4 volumes of material. It consists of topics such as police and fire command, criminal law, search and seizure, community policing, and so on and so forth. The written test has to be passed in order to move on to the next 2 steps. The next step would be promotional ratings of each potential candidate, each ranking member of the department. So the sergeants, lieutenants, deputy director, and director each rate a potential candidate in prescribed criteria that applies to past performance. So everybody basically gets a number in terms of promotional potential rating. They then go before an oral board comprised of command officers from outside of the Grosse Pointe, so that nobody is familiar with anybody, nobody has met anybody, and we bring other people in and they sit in this room, and the raters sit in your chairs and interview the candidate at the desk right here where I sat 7 months ago, and they score the individuals, and then the 3 scores are averaged into a final score. So once the dust finally settled in the process, Tom Dion and Tim Harris were the top 2 candidates, and they're here with us this evening. So without further ado, Tom Dion, would you step forward? So a little background on Tom. Tom was hired by the department in May of 2012. He was promoted to sergeant in June of 2021. He currently serves as the afternoon shift commander, payroll supervisor, and will be managing our entire accreditation program moving forward, which is a huge responsibility. Tom served 5 years in the United States Army, served full-time as mayor of, a full term as mayor of Utica, and currently serves as a Utica councilor. Tonight, we commend Tom's promotion to the rank of public safety lieutenant. Pinning Tom tonight is his wife, Susie. Congratulations, Lieutenant Dion. Tim Harris. That was completely. A little background on Tim. Tim was hired by the department in June of 2006. He became a K-9 officer in 2014 along with his partner Duke. Tim is the current member of the 6 City Special Response Team, member of the Grosse Pointe Farms Dive Team. Tim served 3 years in the United States Navy, and he was a medic with MedStar for 2 years. Tonight we commend Tim's promotion to the rank of Public Safety Sergeant. Hitting Tim tonight is his fiancee, Paige Thomas, who is also a full-time dispatcher here in the farms. Congratulations, Tim.
Duke is jealous.
This concludes our program this evening, and we again thank you for the opportunity to recognize the men, accomplishments,
So, Hutch, why don't we take 2 minutes, the family members want to come up and take pictures with Tom and Tim. So, Tom, why don't you grab your family first, bring them up here, get some pictures of everybody up here, and then we'll, yeah. bring it up. All over together. I wanted a photo on you. All right, Tim. Let's go. Congratulations. Thanks.
Stay up here for radios or kids stuff?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay.
All right, item 5, consideration of request from the Public Safety Department to purchase PSO prep radios for $30,557.75. Let's be exact. All right, let's go.
Just
Go ahead, Mr. Director, go ahead.
So, this is sole source vendor that we typically purchase from, Motorola, is a type of radio that we utilize. We have various incarnations of the same radio over the years. We try to update the radios every couple of years. The particular purchase of these radios will allow for every officer to have his own individual, his or her individual radio. The way it works right now is all radios go in at the end of the day, and then other officers come in and take them out and write the book, which probably that you're taking. With the purchase of these radios, we'll have enough for every officer to assign his or her own radio, which helps with accountability, tracking the radio that goes out for service, and we will have a few extra old radios if need be. So that's basically the story of the radios.
All right, any questions from council? Seeing none, any questions from the public? Seeing none, public comment is closed. I will entertain a motion to allow the purchase of pump radios for a price not to exceed $30,557.75. Anybody?
Why don't I just say,
So moved.
so moved.
All right, do we have support?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Does he expedited?
There's one.
Item 6, Board of Zoning Appeals. Yes, first we have to move into. We have a motion to adjourn as the city council and to convene as the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, seeing as the Board of Zoning Appeals, I understand that the applicant has asked for this public hearing to be adjourned. I did tell them that there's a chance that somebody else might not be here in August. So we can either adjourn to August or probably re-adjourn again in September or just do September. I suggest September. So I think all 7 of us will be.
Sounds good. I'm gonna be here in August, so.
Well, Levin's not gonna be here in August, and he's on the whole month of August, so I actually asked him to leave a date.
That's fine, yeah, so someone's fine.
If I may, on behalf of certain people who have some concerns,
We're not gonna do the public hearing thing, because they've withdrawn it, they've asked they have it
I
postponed.
understand that.
Yeah, so can you wait till public comment?
Sure.
And then we'll do a public comment, that'd be great, all right? So, do I have a motion to adjourn until the September meeting?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn as the Board of Zoning Appeals and to reconvene as the city council?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, September. Item 7, consent agenda. Does anybody want anything on the consent agenda to be removed for individual consideration?
I do, Louis.
Which item?
Item C, please.
Okay. All right, item C will be considered. Any other item? Okay, do I have a motion to approve consent agenda items A, B, and D? Or anybody? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7C, consideration of request from administration to hold a public hearing at the August city council meeting to consider a stormwater discharge control ordinance. Lev, you have a
Right,
question?
I just wanted to have a clarification. This was submitted to us from Scott and Linda and also Bill. And I asked Bill previously to see if maybe he could give us just a little bit of background on us. What we're doing here tonight is just setting a public hearing, but I thought that it's a short meeting and maybe this is a very interesting subject, maybe Bill could give us 5 minutes of explanation as to exactly what this ordinance will mean and the purpose and the nature and the extent of the ordinance.
Shorter than 5 minutes, but
Okay, sure.
happy to answer any questions. As Lev pointed out, this is not a substantive decision at the city council meeting this evening, rather it's setting a public hearing to consider adoption of this ordinance at a regular August meeting. The background of this stems from the permitting process for the portion of our sewer system that is separated. And under the state of Michigan Department of Environment and Great Lakes, so-called EGLE, it's the acronym. The permitting process entails having each community with separated sewer systems to enact an ordinance of this nature, which imposes best practices on our residents and other commercial users in terms of discharging either stormwater or any other matter into the separated sewer system to minimize or hopefully eliminate any pollutants that would be ultimately discharged into the waters of the Great Lakes. So having said that, the draft that is for your consideration was largely prepared by our outside environmental consultant who works with Scott in the water department. I updated it to have it conform to the Grosse Pointe Farms particular situation. That's that.
So the matter before us is to set the public hearing for the August meeting. So do I have a motion to do so?
I will make that motion.
Support? Support. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The public hearing at the August city council meeting is item. Item 8, reports. We have the public safety report in front of us. Item 9, other business. Mr. Reside.
I have no other business other than I would request that council hold a brief closed session after this regular meeting to discuss potential acquisition of property.
I've got a couple of things. One is your seawall, we're meeting with, yes, 28. We are meeting with Chief Executive, County Executive Warren Evans on July 28th at the Pier Park with representatives from Grosse Pointe Shores, Grosse Pointe Farms, the county, and I think HRC, we have some HRC, yes, with HRC will be there, and we chose, and Shane was correct to choose this. We chose that location so we can have Mr. Evans walk out to actually see the seawall with his own eyes. So that will be hopefully be a fruitful meeting, since he told me up at Mackinac, he only knows it's at the 45,000 foot level, when I'll bring him back down to sea level. So actually, lake level, so you can see exactly what's going on there. Interesting in that regard, we did obtain another $1.2 million from the state for further repairs. We can thank Joe Tate and Kevin Hertel, I think, made efforts on our behalf to get that funding for us. So that's in addition to the 750,000 plus the other 250. So that's like another $1 million that we received from the state previously that we're using for repairs and for engineering studies. So if you run into Joe anywhere, particularly thank him. If you run into Kevin, thank him as well. So that's great. As a personal request, I was wondering if we could move the September 12th meeting one day to September 13th or 1 week. Either way, I've got a conflict on the 12th. Does anybody have a problem with moving that to the 13th? Tuesday?
No, not for me. Good.
Everybody understand? Okay, so absent, Mr. Galuli having an issue, then we'll move that meeting from the 12th to the 13th. Next, I just want to let everybody know that we are, after some hiatus, I was talking to Matt and Shane about this, looking to plant some city trees between the sidewalk and the curb. Many of you may have seen the communication on our website that identifies the varieties of trees that we would make available. Our arborist would still have to approve residents' request for a tree or trees. So if you're interested in having a tree placed in front of your property between the sidewalk and curb, or you know friends and family or wants it, or just neighbors, let them know that we're getting back into the tree planting business post-COVID. So there's 6-foot trees thereabouts, and hopefully that'll help us get back on track.
We have varied species that we,
It's like 8 or 9 different trees. No ornament trees like pear trees anymore, or birches. They're canopy trees. But they actually have some very interesting ones. That's good. So that's all I've got. Anybody else in council have anything other business? Okay, to the public. We'll let you go first. Since you stood up before. Come on, give us your name, address.
Gwen Moore for 25 Westland Lane. We are here on behalf of, I was drafted by the Westland neighbors to appear. It's been a long time since I've been here. Shane, Lou, and Sherry. We have some concerns about the construction on Henry Lane, as well as the proposal for the gated community on Henry Lane. As you, Mayor, have asked for county executive Evans to appear and review the Lake Shore situation, I request the city council perhaps to go down Western Lane and view the structure that has been erected at the end of in the backyard of 32 Henry. It is a large structure. Records I could see for the city was that there was supposed to be a pool house. That is not a pool house. It's at least a 15-foot wall that extends almost the entire width of the yard. And the other things that are going on is to, again, we are planning a written response to the proposal that the owners of Henry Lane have presented. If we're, am I correct on that, September 13th, is that constantly that we heard at?
Yeah.
What time or what days, how soon before that would you like a written response filed with the city?
Anytime you want to submit it.
Okay,
I think it'd be fruitful actually for us to get it earlier, because I think the applicant wants, just like we're asking Mr. Evans to go view the site. I think some of the members of council want to walk the property with the applicant, find out exactly what's going on. So that's what led to the adjournment, to allow us to go see it in 3D and express any reservations and questions we have.
there are the wall, the brick wall and iron wall that was at the Henry Lane, 42 Henry Lane front property line that has been dismantled to 2/3 and has been stored at the back of 21 Westman Lane now, which is also has been purchased by the owners of the Henry Lane parcels. We have had down Westman Lane, we've had tractors, construction tractors. We have had parades down Western Lane, one of which has the tracks of a tank, which has, I don't know, I'm not a pavement expert, but I don't think that is very good for what that pavement is constructed for. And there was construction noises beginning at 7 a.m. in the morning until I called Public Safety Department and requested that they show up and advise me not to keep construction noise kind of begin until 8 a.m., which they complied with. But it's just those type of concerns. There's also apparently, we don't know yet, but it appears to be a gate that's going to be at the side of 32 Henry Lane, which we're not sure what that's going to be for, and if it's going to cause more traffic congestion on Western Lane. We have some serious concerns about that. Again,
Has the applicant reached out to anybody in Western?
that is part of the problem there. They have talked to a couple people where they're going to construct a new wall along between Henry Lane and Western Lane for the property owners on the south end of Western Lane. But that is the only contact we've had other than this notice that has come out recently. I mean, to me, if you're a neighbor, you're going to come out and talk to your neighbors and say, this is what we'd like to do. What do you think? We haven't had none.
Well, thanks for coming. That'll help us when we talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else in the public today? Andy, you got your hand up quickly. It's quick. No, so you got your hand up quickly, not quickly for your comments.
I had some special, just two quick questions. The meeting on 28th, can public come to that meeting with everyone, be around it all?
Probably not.
Okay.
Just, yeah. We'll, yeah.
That's fine.
I told you, this is our first chance to,
I,
Thank you.
it's so important.
Yeah.
See, those trees are available, where, we call for those?
I think you called back.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Oh, she's still pointing her hand. Come on down, name and address.
Shauna Bartel, 67 Redder Circle. I'm back. I was here originally at your June 13th meeting, and speaking of neighbors, I spoke to some of my neighbors today. I was here originally about the rat problem on the hill. and they are around and very visible. But my one neighbor told me that when she spoke to Matt, that I told him that I did not want a vape box. So I just want to correct that statement. Again, the trash is not coming from the residents. I'm not having a vape box to attract additional rats. The restaurants are causing the problem. Councilman Ritchie mentioned perhaps a quote from a different extermination company. I mean, has that been something that's been followed through on?
So let me ask you a quick question. Matt, why don't you bring us an update from the city's standpoint? And then just a question. Did Matt try to get in the property?
Nobody's been to my house. I got a phone call from the city and there was no voicemail or no call back. I was out of town.
That was probably me calling you.
Okay.
I called you and I couldn't leave a message, your voicemail was
Yeah.
full, so I did try to.
That's fine. No, I appreciate it. And then I was out of town and I cleared it. And I was gonna call back, but then I thought, well, I'm not sure.
Okay, Matt, fire away.
So when we originally spoke on the phone prior to the last meeting, we spoke for fairly 20, 30 minutes probably. And basically throughout the course of that phone call, I went over all of our standard procedures and offered to follow through with all the things such as having more bait boxes put out. I must have misunderstood you because when you said you don't want more bait boxes because they attract rats, I was talking about the alley. Because I know that generally speaking, restaurants attract rats. You know, coming out to take a look at your property is also something we always offer. We have a report of high levels of rat activity because we can, you know, just with our experience, we can identify specific things that tend to attract rats. You know, as we discussed last month, rats, like they want food, water, and shelter. If they don't have all three of those things, they're going to leave. You know, and so throughout the course of our conversation, I was under the impression that you didn't want us to follow through on those things.
No, I mean, my concern is when I look at the budget for extermination and it's $800 through June 30th of this year, June 30th, 2022. And bait boxes, I don't want them up against my back. I mean, if you put them on outside my backyard, but my concern goes back to it. Why aren't they at the restaurants? Cafe Nini, Jumps, Morning Glory, you know, I mean, there's a couple on across the street, but there aren't any along that alley.
Well, we've been talking to Rose and we're gonna do a walkthrough with them and review all the current locations of the big boxes. There's also some other techniques that they've described that they want to look at a particular situation to see if they would be effective. Again, you know, after our conversation, then again, after the last meeting, we went through, or, you know, city staff went through and looked at all the alleys. Clearly, the right-hand side, now that's where most of the restaurant activity is. Those dumpsters, enclosures, they need to be better maintained by the restaurant owners. And we have been in communication with them, talking about it. And I think we talked about this specifically in our phone calls, that it's an ongoing thing because you have rotating staff. Usually it comes down to staff members that late at night, they're tired, they want to go home. They don't even open the dumpster enclosure. They just launch a garbage bag over the wall. And then, so these are corrective, you know, things that can be corrected by talking to the restaurants. On the Cafe Nini side, you know, from my personal observations, they do a very good job of keeping their out. That's the only restaurant on that side. You know, and we've been in discussion with them, you know, they were here at the last meeting and they addressed that as well. But that being said, we're going to go through anyways with our professional experts and see what recommendations they have in place.
But the $800, I mean, I have an exterminator to my house, 13 houses at $235 a month for 3-month service is well over $3,000. I mean, that's the whole budget for the year.
I can't speak to that. That doesn't seem right to me.
That doesn't sound right. I think yeah.
I know, but you've got it for 2021 and 2022, and then you've got it for here, and then $800. And you keep referring to experts. I mean, how can you get anybody to do anything for $800?
Well, I could say for one example, we had a hotspot over, I believe it was on Shelby. To bait a couple of the catch basins in that area for a month or 3 weeks to a month was $365 for one catch basin. So I really don't think that was correct. I mean, we could look into it, but I can't imagine they make much of a business model.
But I'm just reiterating what's shown in the budget. I mean, it's an approved budget, correct? I mean, people review it. Isn't it approved? The amount of money being spent or allocated? I mean,
You know, let me look into that. I know, because I personally, after our last meeting, I did walk the area. And I know there were several bait boxes that were placed out there. Those were put up by the property owners themselves. And I did personally speak with some of the businesses, some of the owners of the businesses along Mack Avenue to discuss the activity. We've actually, believe it or not, overall in the city, we've seen a reduced amount of rodent activity this past year. So we have not had as much spent on rodents this past fiscal year as we have in other years. I think we looked at the total number of rat complaints over the last year that we've received, and we booked those through we have software to record those. And I think, you know, I can't recall, it was like maybe a dozen complaints over the last year citywide. So the rodent issue, it waxes and wanes, and we have been on a wane period where we have not had the number of complaints. With that said, we are going to try to do more. We did walk in, we have been contacting the restaurant owners about making sure they keep their area clean. We've been inspecting the trash dumpsters on a much more regular basis. And again, been more on the other side of Kirchhoff, which is, you know, a greater distance from that residential area, but it's an issue. We've even contacted the city of Ferndale, per your suggestion, and spoke with them about measures they've taken, and they are still using bait boxes as a primary method. They have experimented where they're actually putting dry ice in burrows, and it actually sucks out the oxygen out of the burrow and essentially suffocates the rodents right in their nest, and so you don't have the issue of, you know, of rodents dying outside of in open areas. And so that's one thing we're exploring with Rose. They're doing trying something similar using CO2, and that's something that we're going to be exploring when we do the walkthrough with them this week, or is it next week, whatever.
So what I'm hearing from our administration is, yes, we're doing something. Yes, we're doing something. We're not slaves to the $800 budget. If you think for a moment that we stop at $800, the answer is no. We will spend more. We will spend whatever it takes to make sure these problems are addressed. And so we'll go back and double check that budget, because I don't think that it's only, I don't know I have to look at it. I don't know if it's what's left in the year end. I don't know if that's what we passed for, if it's just a month spend or what it is. But I guarantee you that we will spend more than $800 if it costs more. I don't care if it costs 5 times more, 10 times more, we'll pay to do it. So we'll double check it. But it sounds like these two gentlemen have been making a lot of effort since.
yeah, no, I mean, and I appreciate through the budget and like, I mean, as far as everything, I mean, reading through your 424 pages of ordinances, I mean, are they getting fined? I mean, normally fines would prompt a business perhaps to be a little more proactive.
What I just heard right now is that yours on that side, Cafe has done anything wrong to be fined. At least the business that they've made, they said that Cafe is in compliance. On the other side, I know we have issued citations, we have gone after them to make sure it's better. On the other side, I'm not sure if that's drifting all the way back to Radnor Circle from across the street. It may be, but what I'm hearing from Matt and from Shane is that we are talking to those restaurants and getting much more severe with them in terms of. So I guess it's a story to be continued. I just want you to know that we won't be bound by whatever's in that budget. We will spend whatever it takes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Awesome, thanks, yeah, go ahead.
Tim, do you have recall, or finance director, do you have recall, putting on the spot?
Yeah.
Do you have any type of recall of what's in the budget for, take a look what she's referring to?
This is your $3,500 for the fiscal year of 2022 to 23. I mean, I couldn't even find it posted in your 2021-22 budget. I mean, it says here, but we can go.
Yeah, the budget was $3,500, $800 was the activity in the month of June. So the actual budget was $3,500.
Right, through June, but is that?
They spent $800 through June.
800 was spent, 35.
We had $3,500 budgeted, correct?
Typically, this is when that budget gets spent. I mean, there's not a lot of activity.
I have a question.
Sure.
It seems to me, my recollection was that one thing that was discussed, Matt, was that we might have more pickups on the other side of Kirkville, commercial pickups for trash. Have we been talking about doing that, or has that become something that we're planning on doing, or where does that stand?
Yeah, we've definitely discussed it. I think we're kind of looking at the logistics of doing that with DPW right now.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of like parking. When people say there's not enough parking up on the hill, there's usually, there is enough parking, within the municipal lots. It's allocated those spaces. So we actually have 3 enclosures in the Emerald lot on the west side of Kirchville. And those, and that's enough capacity. When we're picking up, we still have empty dumpsters. The problem is we'll have people who are trying to use the dumpsters that are closest, like people want to park where it's closest, they don't want to park in the back lot, so that's again part of the education process. So we are able to accommodate it. We think we do an extra pick for the commercial properties because of the additional activity. And if we need to, we would look at a third pick, but the volumes aren't there right now.
It's basically people are being lazy throwing them.
Yeah, sure.
And it's hard to tell if there's like no receipts and there's this from Lux, is it from Jumps, if it's just a bunch of food wrappers and everything. Or residents, or just dumping. All right, we'll continue to work on it.
I said
Thank
one
you.
more question.
Sure.
Were you gonna be able to send that letter up we talked about to the neighbors, telling them about
I
the?
kind of want to.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we did talk about, because I think that people really need to know if they get in your cars or under the foundation of your homes, it's a problem. And I just think it would be fair to them that they understand, maybe they don't see them, but that they're around. Okay, thank you very much for your time and your effort.
No worries, thank you. Anytime. Come on.
Good evening.
Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome. Thank you. Eric Gunderson, 480 Bellinger. I appreciate your time, and I have a few things I'd like to discuss. First, I just want to congratulate Chief and all the officers that have recently been promoted. I think it's great what we're doing in terms of the vetting program and in terms of promoting from within. I think that's great in terms of keeping the continuity of our department, and you got a lot of great officers doing great things for us, so thank you. I guess I didn't originally come to discuss the whole rat issue and all that, but being that I live near businesses, just as the previous resident was speaking, I do have a couple of follow-up questions on that. I'm on Bellinger, we're on a dead end, we're right behind the block that has the Irish Coffee and Mr. C's, and my question is, what in terms of regulations with those dumpsters exists that we can enforce on businesses? For example, is there any type of regulation that they have to make sure the dumpsters are closed in addition to making sure the trash actually goes into the dumpsters as opposed to just in the enclosure? Is there any type of regulation that they have to keep those dumpsters in any type of good standing where there's not holes in the bottom where the rats can get in, or if there are holes that have, kind of found their way into the top that have been chewed in it or whatever, that those can be somehow rectified? I'm not sure what the situation is across the city. My understanding, those dumpsters that are behind Mr. C's and Irish Coffee are owned by them. I'm not sure what dumpsters are city owned, what enclosures are maintained by the city or maintained by businesses, but I do think, there's got to be a little bit better, just all around teamwork, whether it be on the city side or the business side, to sort of address those issues. We end up with Mr. C's breadsticks on our windowsills that, the dumpsters get left open, and the first, I would say, 4 or 5 houses on each side of Bellinger end up with squirrels, setting them on their windowsills, their roof, in the backyard, etc. And then of course the dog goes back and he's having a field day with the Mr. C breadsticks in the backyard that fall from the trees magically. So comment on any of that?
Yeah, so like we say, the dumpsters are owned by the businesses. They're purchased through the city so that we make sure that they're dumpsters that can accommodate our equipment. When we see ones, basically the DPW workers start to see a regular pattern where a dumpster is deteriorating and it needs to be replaced. Then at a certain point, we will tell the business it's time for a new dumpster. You need to buy a new one. As far as the lids being down, obviously that's something we are constantly talking to them about, I have to check the ordinance to see if it's actually specifically outlined in there.
We tell them it's a requirement.
It would tell them it's required, yeah.
So is there any way to enforce that? I mean, I understand, some random person could come, throw stuff in the dumpster and leave the dumpster open. But if the business or an employee of the business themselves are leaving it open or not throwing trash into the dumpster, just, tossing it in the enclosure, if you can prove that the business is doing any one of those things, is there any type of fine or action that can be taken on the business? An example of the stuff on the hill that was previously being discussed. I mean, wouldn't it be hard to, put a camera up there for 48 hours and see what occurs as far as which employees of which business are throwing things in there improperly, not closing the dumpster, whatever. Same thing up by Irish Coffee and Mr. C's. And if those businesses get a fine because they got a lazy employee, that might encourage them to train their employees better.
What about a sticker as a reminder? Like we place stickers on our garbage cans
The
or.
problem is they're just going to the corral and just throwing it over the fence. If the stickers on the container, they're not even looking at it. They're just throwing it over the fence and hoping it stays in the corral.
Hopefully the lid is open.
I would assume, is there some sort of locking requirement for dumpsters, or no, we don't require them to lock? Yeah, I mean,
And then our guys come along, they hook up, who's
Right.
locked, they say, our lock, they lock, and it's got a little flip open and get into the dumpster.
right.
But we can look at that. We will, I mean, again, we've increased our monitoring up on the hill. I can tell you, when we did look at Cafe Nini's and along the west side alleyway, every dumpster did have a lid. Every lid was in a closed position, and we did not find any evidence of. I would look at it as a nuisance. It would be a nuisance in my mind that if they're bringing trash in order.
We can find them.
Yeah, I would,
I
yeah.
need to interrupt you. Is there a code enforcement officer anymore?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was told there wasn't. I was just, is that the person you call then?
Yeah, Gary Paddock was one of the individuals who has been going out and inspecting, but because of the rubbish issues, I know our supervisors and Public Works have been monitoring the dumpsters as well.
Oh, okay, because when I was told there wasn't one, so I didn't even interrupt.
Oh,
That
no,
was one of
no
my
worries.
questions. Since we're on the same
All
time.
right, next time.
Okay, next topic. That enclosure behind Mr. C's in Irish Coffee, it's actually like in the Irish Coffee lot. Is that considered city property where the dumpsters are, or is that Irish Coffee property?
It's right.
Okay. I've had an issue, I've addressed it in the past with the owner of the Irish Coffee, and I'm not sure where to go with it. I've been here in the past regarding issues with marijuana. I have an issue with the Irish Coffee employees going in and using that enclosure as a place to go hide and smoke marijuana between making people's food and between serving people food. And of course, that's not far from our property, and my wife and I are both sensitive to it. We now have a 5-month-old at home, and we don't want him smelling it, and it comes through the windows, and I've asked him nicely, and he's addressed it once or twice, but then it just seems to recur, and it's the same people, and it's like I smell weed, and you look out and you get in a position where you can see over that wall at the end of the street, and lo and behold, there's smoke coming from in that enclosure, and then you see them come out of there. So it's a bike storage facility for their employees, and it's a weed smoking facility in addition to being a place where they put their trash and leave the dumpsters open. So I'm just wondering if there's any type of, any type of regulation that covers any of those things. I don't know if it's a health department thing or.
We don't have a health department, that's the county
Yeah.
issue, but I remember being in that alley 4 or 5 years ago, a roof and employee doing the same. And a quick phone call to the police rectified that very quickly. Because now that was illegal, now it's legal, but it's still, it's on private property, that's a problem. So it's on a health issue, it's not us, it's the county.
Mhm. So what's the best issue on that? Go to the county health department and see if it's not legal for them to be.
Yeah, Hutch now knows.
Call us in the moment.
Yes.
Well, come on.
It's still, I think.
It's public.
Exactly. Even though it's on private property, it's still public.
But we're getting complaints.
So we're getting complaints, so call the department. Now that he's aware of it, he'll tell his patrol officers, remind Mr. Kennedy that he has to control his employees.
Okay. Sort of tangent sideways to a different topic, but partially same topic. I have a couple of concerns with the dog park, and I've kind of bounced around between, public safety and parks and rec, et cetera. So first, I'm not sure, what we can do about this, but if you look at where that dog park is, the front side of the dog park butts the parking lot there. And there's a few feet of sidewalk and nice landscaping and then parking lot. And there's really no parking blocks or anything that separate that sidewalk from the parking lot. Now, I would say 99% of the residents who are there to use the dog park, or residents who are there to use the fields for that matter, they stop where the parking lot stops. Occasionally you'll get an old lady or something who's just oblivious and pulls all the way up. But we have an issue with lots and lots of different contractors, whether it be MedStar ambulances or landscapers or plumbers, irrigation people, electricians, you name it. They use that as a, take your lunch, take a nap, hang out spot, and it's becoming both a safety issue and a nuisance. So in some cases, they will pull all the way up, from where the parking lot ends across the sidewalk to the point that they're basically at the curb of that landscaping on the other side of the sidewalk. So if I'm walking up to the dog park and I'm coming up there with a dog and a baby in a stroller, I've got to walk around cars that might be backing up because this car or truck or whatever it was, most of the time it's a contractor of some sort, has pulled all the way up on that thing. And, I don't want the guy knocking on people's windows and saying, hey, you can't do this, or calling the police every time, and hey, there's a guy parked across here. But there's got to be some way we can address that. I don't know if the best way to address it is with signs. We also don't want to have sign Mageddon in our city. We've been through that with Lake Shore.
Take all the signs down on Lake Shore.
So, parking lots, something, I would almost like to see, and I'm gonna bring up a couple other, smaller issues with that dog park parking, but I think ultimately what we're gonna lead to is maybe there's a way that we can make the, that first row parking, dog park, members only parking there, and it would eliminate some of the other issues. So some of the other issues, you get a landscape truck with a big long trailer. They'll park perpendicular to those spots, right along that, whether they're on the sidewalk or staying within the lines of the lot, they're perpendicular and they're taking up half of the dog park spots, right there. So that's an issue. And then we also have the issue of them smoking, hanging out. So they're leaving their vehicles running, so you're smelling exhaust, often diesel exhaust, which is even worse while you're in the dog park. They're smoking. Now I understand residents are allowed to smoke cigarettes in the dog park, at least as far as I understand. And I don't have so much of an issue with that because people tend to be respectful. Our own residents who are dog park members, they're respectful of other people. They try to, stay away from other people who are bothered by it. And the dog park is big enough that if one of them is doing that, it's generally not an issue. But, while I don't mind another resident doing it, it's their right to use the dog park and all of that.
That's a tougher one.
No,
Smoking cigarettes is legal and.
Yes, I understand.
If you move the parking now, that might help you out.
Right. It would, especially because it's not always cigarettes that these contractors are smoking. And I smelled weed in the dog park on more than one occasion. And, sometimes I've been able to pinpoint which contractor it is. Sometimes I'm not really sure. But, I don't want to be the guy who's always, looking out to, tattle on something and call the police for it. I'd like there to be some other option to help with that. And so I think all of these concerns kind of combine. And we walked up to the dog park earlier, right before I came over here, and I noticed a couple of things as well. There's actually oil stains on that sidewalk, which is an indication that people have been pulling over it. And there's tire tracks, circling across that sidewalk. And the last thing with that parking lot, not necessarily always, abutting the dog park. Sometimes it's over kind of towards that side.
Let's do this. We let people go on as city council.
Yeah.
We're not the school board with 3 minutes. You would have been done 25 minutes ago.
Appreciate
So,
that.
I think if you list these things, get them to Hutch, because I agree with you on a lot of this. I don't want people having their trailers over the top of the sidewalk, blocking entry to the dog park, taking up 5 spots because they park perpendicular to the spots. Great stuff. Let Hutch know about this, when you usually go to the dog park, when you see the lawn. We took care of it at Mr. A's for a while ago when they used to park down the street on Allard and all those, we put up the signs and that actually helped alleviate that. You brought it to our attention, which is great. Let Hutch do his job. Then we'll consider, I know, Sierra spends a lot of time at the dog park, or
I
did,
used to.
so she'll, she likes the dog parks, we'll figure it out, but I think that's a good, maybe a couple, 2 or 3 spots versus dog park only, would be good.
And I have a question. So we are entertaining forming like a little volunteer committee to kind of like oversee the dog park. Is that something you would be interested in?
Perhaps if I had more information on what that would entail and what the,
Sitting in meetings like this.
Even better.
I hope that doesn't dissuade you.
Yeah, I don't mind these meetings. It's actually, I could have come towards the end with public comments, but I came.
No, it's good.
Because I like to know what's going on in the city. Can't always make them.
Well, I appreciate coming with the promotion of our officers too.
And
So, yeah.
bringing these things to our attention.
Yes, 100%. This is good stuff. No, I mean, I think I would agree that these trailers and pulling over and riveting our citizens from getting in and out of the dog park or making it more difficult doesn't make sense. So that's something we can look at.
Yeah.
Particularly 2 or 3 spots in the dog park.
That, that lot in general is not in great condition. And I'm not sure what the overall plans for that area long-term might be. So I can't necessarily comment well on the reason that it hasn't been, or, maybe it's planned to be fixed. But certainly, some lines on those spots being repainted would at least be a minor fix that would help. But there's a lot of potholes there. And, generally there's a lot of vehicles that end up sitting there. There will be a vehicle sitting there for a week or 2 and not move.
Well, that's normal. If you see those under your fence, let us know. It's not a permanent park. That's fine. All right, thanks.
Done with dog park. I only have one more issue, and I think this is an important one. This is probably the most important. I saved it for last. So we've done a lot of improvements over at the parking lot by the field house and the DPW on Kirby Road. As you know, that it's very busy with baseball, and it's been great to hear all of that baseball activity going on. It's great, that's being utilized. However, I think we need to reevaluate the parking on Kirby Road. Now, you can't park on the field side, but you can park on the side where all the houses are, both between Webster and Mac and between Webster and Chalfont. Webster is the street that sort of dead ends into where that parking lot is. Now, being on Bellinger with a dead end, we have to come out Webster and come around Kirby, basically to get to Mac, coming out of our house. And that intersection coming off of Webster onto Kirby, and to a degree coming from Kirby onto Webster, is quite dangerous when there's cars parked there. Now, there's literally no signage whatsoever in regards to parking on that road, except for one. And right now, the issue is that the cars basically butt up on Kirby. They butt up to Webster immediately on either side. So when those cars are parked there, there's really barely enough room for 2 cars to pass each other on Kirby. And so the only way to get out is really to inch yourself out into traffic to the point where you can see, and at that point you're already getting hit. I've been almost hit so many times there, just trying to inch out and get a line of sight, because people are parking all the way.
I know it's not an all-year problem. It's really a 3 months problem. Really, we have districts for Little League, we had states last year. So what I'm gonna ask Hutch to do is look at maybe yellow curbing the spot, one north of whatever it is.
15 feet. 15 feet.
15 feet, and we can figure out that to get you some more, sight line. Gotta be honest, I would tell you just drive up to Chalfont, turn left and turn right. On those couple days that it's really busy,
Yeah.
I would take it upon myself to go up the block, get to the stoplight and avoid that open left-hand turn. Because even when I lived over behind Brownell, all those fields were being used and all the cars were parked on Williams. I took a different route, so I didn't have to deal with all the cars.
Yeah.
So I went up to Beaupre, came down Cloverleaf to park in my driveway, rather than drive down Williams either way when it was all jammed up with softball cars. Just, it inconvenienced me for 2 hours a weekend. No big deal, but we'll take a look at the 15 feet from the intersection to give you better sight.
Thankfully, I think, those fields are being used more than just on the weekend, but, conversely, there's more parking issues, all week because of that, especially in the summertime, which we're in now.
I think with districts being over and no states this year, I think you'll see that usage go down tremendously.
Oh, for sure.
They've got summer league, but it won't be anywhere near this.
It still, doesn't prevent people from parking there.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to enforce the 15 feet from the curb.
Is there a way to get more than 15 feet? Because I don't know that 15 feet is a great sightline. Any?
Like, people smarter than us.
That's the ordinance.
That's-
Yeah, I mean, we can look at it. It's
So-
30 feet from a stop sign, but there's no stop sign in Kirby, stop signs on the website.
Right, yeah, no stop signs. in
So,
Kirby.
stop sign in Kirby would be 30 feet from the corners, but we'll look at it.
The issue is also on Kirby, people turning onto Webster, pedestrians crossing Webster, I've seen almost get hit on multiple occasions because those cars are blocking and the car turning right is not always, looking as well as they should and the line of sight isn't good. So I think, the 15 feet would help as far as that. I do think that one sign on Kirby needs to be looked at. It would be probably halfway down from Webster to Mac, on the side that has the houses on it. And it's a, sign with the rectangular no parking, and behind it, there's the little sign that really should say here to corner. But in reality, it says this side of sign, which is basically everything from that to Mac. But if you look there, usually it's from that side of sign to Mac that's full of cars, and obviously that's not being enforced.
We'll work on it. You don't need to explain it anytime. So
Needs to be flipped.
all right, we got it. So Hutch will take a look at it and hopefully we'll get to some resolution.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yep. Anybody else in the audience? All right, we'll adjourn as a city council and we will join into a closed session. We will not reconvene after the closed session. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy this beautiful weather. Because it's gonna be January pretty soon and you'll forget all about it.